This week's video was supposed to be a digital artist breakdown, but instead I had my own artistic breakdown. So this week's video is me questioning my identity as an artist whilst creating a visual word collage to try and give myself a break from doing art. But more on this later. Since I released last week's video, I realized that I really enjoy making this kind of video where I combine art and writing and speaking and video creation all into one. I'm someone who loves to do everything and yet not stick to one thing, and so that got me thinking about my artistic identity. More specifically, can I really call myself an artist? I started off my art journey with urban sketching, like I said last week, but I don't really feel like calling myself an urban sketcher. I also do digital art, but I'm not so good as to feel that I can call myself a digital artist. Oh, and in my day job, I'm a graphic designer, so there's no clear answer really. I have always traveled back and forth between different mediums, experimenting and abandoning in the process. This is of course a natural thing for many artists, but I've always felt that you need to really hone in and focus on a single medium or subject matter to make sure that your work is cohesive in order to really qualify as calling yourself as an artist. I guess what I'm trying to say is that an artist needs to have a body of work that can support the identity of whoever they are claiming to be, whether that's a concept artist or an illustrator or a plein air painter. This concept is extremely obvious in social media when people dedicate their Instagram or their YouTube to solely showcasing one subject or medium. Obviously, this helps them in the long run with regards to engagement. When I look at my body of work, it's pretty scattered. There are many gaps, stops and starts, and I drift in and out of mediums, not really owning one in its entirety, or at least in its majority. In fact, if there has been any medium which I've always been drawn to since I was a child, it's writing. Ironically, writing has always come to me more naturally than art. I even released a digital zine in 2020 during lockdown, which you can find in the description if you want to read more of my work. But in the pursuit of wanting to become an artist, I actively decided to shelve writing somewhere in late 2020. Since making YouTube videos, however, I've delved back into the writing process through script making, which has been super enjoyable for me. That being said, I do struggle with reconciling the two identities of being a writer and an artist, though technically they can coexist. In fact, a great example of this coexistence is Austin Kleon. His book was probably the first art book that I picked up, and I highly recommend his books to anyone and everyone. He sculpts with both his pen and his brush through his Blackout collages, which is what you see me doing in this video. It's basically a bunch of written material that I've had lying on my shelf that I've been meaning to use for this exact purpose. You basically take anything which has writing on it and you try and make some strange or interesting or funny sentence through words on the page and then black out all the content which isn't necessary. And I'll share with you the interesting, well, as interesting as it gets, sentences that I shared at the end. And most of this material I took from exhibitions and things like that, so the content's not that interesting. It would work a lot better if you're using something like a newspaper or an old book, if you are okay with defiling a book like that. Anyways, back to Kleon. He directed me towards an awesome lady known as Linda Barry, who is a writer, an artist, a teacher, amongst a whole host of other things. I'm waiting to get my hands on her books to creatively free myself, but I'll save that for another video. In the meantime, you can check out some of her lectures in the description below. This YouTube channel was started really during a creative crisis which I've experienced for the last year, as I'm slowly discovering who I am through the lens of art. At this moment in time, I don't know much. All I know is that there's a lot inside of me which I want to get out, and my creative pursuit is basically in finding a way to do this. The videos I create on this platform were intended to simply be a documentation of that, along with some helpful videos which I throw in now and then, though it seems to be more often than not. And the great thing about using a bunch of different mediums and following a plethora of artists from varying disciplines is that I can cross-reference and strengthen the fundamentals which I can apply. But I've yet to apply because I'm still in a very deep creative rut. I'm not exactly sure if I expressed myself in the best way possible or if my words were even coherent, so let me turn this back to you. What do you describe yourself as? Do you identify with a certain medium? Do you think one has to have a go-to medium or subject matter in order to describe himself as an artist? Or are we all artists in our own right, according to our own definition, whether we use watercolor or words or anything in between? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Before we wrap up the video, as promised, here are the sentences that I came up with, and some of them are actually quite interesting prompts. So here we go. The heart embodies best first conceptual overview installed from paper in 1941, including Cologne, Tokyo. Innovation problems maintains relationships by collaboration. A retrospective future, an international memory of presuppositions, an international day of moving mountains. Memory DNA. It seeks to reconstruct maps inherited from the Republic of particularly engaged protests that include alternative way of life. The life creating a new fort creature, the beast of most unexpected places. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the outcome as much as I did. Let me know what was your favorite sentence down below. In fact, I think there's some quite interesting conceptual prompts behind those words. And with that, I'll see you next week for a nice, relaxing sketch with me video, because during the colder months in winter in Dubai, I hope to take you around to show you my favorite spots in this lovely city where we can sketch together. So stay tuned for the first video in that series. All right, bye.